So it's a warm welcome on what's a pretty grey and gloomy morning in Edinburgh. I don't know what it's like where you are, but I'd really like to say a big welcome to everybody who's here this morning. I know from the list of people who registered that some of you have come along to some of our previous webinars back in the summer, so it's really nice to have you with us again. But there were quite a lot of new names too. So a big welcome to you as well. And I hope the next hour or so is going to be really useful and really enjoyable for all of us, actually. We've got quite a lot to learn. I've got quite a lot to learn as well as you, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sorry we can't start off by offering you tea and coffee. Hopefully you've thought to actually set yourself up with tea, coffee and biscuits, and we'll get going. I think that's everybody who's in for now. We started these webinars, as you probably know, because when you're the parent or carer of a young person who's got additional support needs, it can be really hard to find out good information. And the one thing that you want to be really sure about is that you've not missed out on something essential that could make the difference. And so the idea behind this series is to let you hear from some of Scotland's leading organisations, and also to have the chance to ask questions and to get your questions answered, to go away with a better idea of the organisations and the people that you can connect with as part of thinking and planning for your young person's future. And we did start aiming them for around about the school leaving age, just before leaving school, just after. But it applies as much beyond that age as well, up into late teens and also on into the early 20s. So let me introduce myself first for people who haven't attended one of these before. I'm Tracy Francis and I work for ARC Scotland, which facilitates the Scottish Transitions Forum. And we work with professionals, with young people and also with parents and carers to improve transitions for young people with additional support needs of all kinds, particularly the transition to adulthood. And we've got lots of resources around transition and transition planning, and I'll come to some of those a wee bit later. Now, there should have been 3 of us this morning, and as you can see, there's only 2. And unfortunately, Lorna Stalker, who was going to be co-presenting with us, has tested positive for coronavirus this week. And she's feeling very unwell, so she's had to pull out at the last minute. And I'm sure you'll join with me in sending her all our best wishes, and I hope she makes a full recovery very, very quickly. But luckily for us, we still have Pauline Stratford with us, who's going to lead the session this morning and to answer your questions. So Pauline works for Skills Development Scotland, and some of you might be familiar with that name through school, others may be less so, but Skills Development Scotland doesn't just work in and through school, as Pauline will explain. They're a huge source of information and a really valuable source of support, not just in leading up to finishing school, but also after your young person's left and they've moved on into adult life. So Pauline, can you just say a little bit about yourself and about Skills Development Scotland, and then I'll go through how the morning's going to run.
Yeah, no bother. Hi everyone, lovely to speak to you all today, and thank you for having me along. I am Pauline Stratford, as Tracy said. I'm the Senior Executive for Additional Support Needs and Equality in Skills Development Scotland's Careers, Information, Advice and Guidance Service. So we provide all of the career services in every school in Scotland, and we also have centres in all of our local authorities across Scotland providing careers support as well to adults. So we're a universal all-age service and deliver in a lot of different ways, which I'll tell you about later on.
That's great, Pauline, thank you. So as always, before we get started properly, there's a couple of things to explain. If you want to ask any questions, you can do that at any point. I've had a couple of questions that have come through to me early, but we're going to tackle as many as we can during the course of the session. So somewhere on your screen, you should be able to see either a question mark or the word questions or something like that. Just take a moment now to see if you can find that. And if you click on that word or that icon, you should see a box where you can type in your question. And you can ask a question at any point during the session, and I'll pass that on to Pauline as we go, or keep them till the end, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end. You should also have a button or an icon somewhere that's labelled handouts, and if you click on that, you'll find we've got 5 handouts today. There's the Transitions Planning Guide that the Scottish Transitions Forum has put together, And that's got links to all sorts of organisations who can advise and support on different aspects of transitions planning. And you'll also find we've got the slides from today that you can download, and there's a couple of other handouts that Skills Development Scotland have shared with us that have got parents in mind, so you might find those useful too. And then last but not least, it's just to remind you that this session's being recorded, and that's why we've taken the decision so that you can't be seen or heard, so that we protect everyone's privacy. But we'll send you the link to the session and the recording as soon as we can afterwards. And what that means is if there's any problems seeing or hearing any part of it, you'll be able to revisit it later. So I think that's probably covered all the housekeeping stuff. I think, Pauline, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you the presenter, then you can share your screen. I'll turn my camera off, but I'll still be here. And let's hope it works as well as it did in the practice.
Excellent.
Okay, just a second. Here we go.
Okay, folks. Tracy, is that coming up as it should?
It looks like it is to me, yes, hopefully so. I can see it.
Excellent, fantastic. And I'm just going to move this little, oh, now I've lost myself again. There we go. Great, so as I say, thanks so much for having us along today, or me along. Lorna is gutted to be missing this. She was really looking forward to speaking to you all, but I will feed back to her on how we got on this morning. Today we're going to be talking about person-centred planning and the role of career guidance in that. So we just wanted to start off with this quote from ARC around, ensuring that transition preparation, planning and support is in place is a key priority, and it absolutely is a key priority for SDS as well. We do believe and agree with ARC that young people who need extra support should be able to get that in their transition into adulthood, and we really want to make sure that through fair work and other ways, people can play a full part in the economy. They can have the job they want, something that suits them, something that they enjoy and they like, and that will then mean that they can play a crucial part in our recovery from the pandemic. And we hope that some of the changes to workplace cultures, more flexible working from home, things like that, we hope will help to sort of open up opportunities as well. So today we're going to talk then, as I say, about the role of career guidance in all of this. So I'll give you a bit of an overview of our approach to career guidance, the services that we offer, the sort of wider context that we're working in terms of careers education, and then the resources and some information that may be useful to you to have access to. So the first thing we wanted to do then, when we're working with any young person or any customer, the first thing we do is to work out and think about where they are now. Feelings are a big part of that. And so what we wanted to do just now is just to think about yourselves and think, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your young person's potential transition into adulthood? What does that stir up for you? So that we can see where we're all starting from today. So if folks are online, have access, which to the internet, which will if you're on this call, if you could go to menti.com, if you type that into your search bar, and I'm just going to come out of this for 2 seconds and bring up another screen here. If you do that, you'll be asked to put in a code. If you put in the code 5820289, it will open up and give you the option to add 3 answers around how you're feeling right now and how you're feeling about your young person's transition. So if folks can give that a try, if you're having any problems with it, you can pop into the chat that you're feeling that you're having some trouble. That's great, things are coming through. So we've got concerned, unprepared, worried, exhausted. Just give some other folks some time to put some words in as well. Yeah, anxious coming up there. So we can see exhausted is coming through a few times. It's bigger there than some of the others. Dissatisfied, helpless, yeah. Alone, okay, yeah. Excited, that's good. Yeah, some folks feeling excited. It is an exciting time. We want to make it an exciting time. We'll just give folks another wee minute to put things in there. I think we've got a bit of a theme, clearly got a theme going around feeling, anxious, nervous. I think some of the sort of comments here around, unprepared, maybe fueling that, the feeling alone, feeling helpless can be maybe feeling fearful and anxious. Okay, that's really, really helpful. Thank you for taking part in that. That's been really, really good to know where we're all starting from. So I really hope then that what we're going to cover today might help to make you feel less fearful and certainly less unprepared and less lacking in information. So we'll certainly do our best to fill in some of those gaps for you. And really it's as well going to be about making sure that you know where to get that ongoing support from SDS going forward so that we can help you over this time, which is undoubtedly exciting but is undoubtedly concerning as well, when your young person might need additional support and you're not sure that they're going to get that. So thank you for taking part in that. I'm just going to pop this presentation back up and we'll move back into this. So one of the things that we wanted to tackle fairly early on in this then is, I guess, a bit of the elephant in the room and the sort of perceptions then of careers advisors. Folks might have seen back at the Rio 2016 Paralympics, there was a really fantastic inspirational advert on, Yes I Can it was called, and lots of people defying expectations, showing that they were really capable of so many things that perhaps people had assumed they weren't. And it was a really brilliant advert. And then for those in the careers profession, it came to a point in the advert where they had this little scene, with a sort of older gentleman behind the desk, with the young person in front of the desk, a sort of old stuffy looking careers room, and the careers advisor then was saying, "No, you can't," to the young person. And I think that can sometimes be the perception, perhaps, that careers advisors are there to tell young people or to sort of limit young people. It's a very different thing to the career service that I think it was when we were all at school. We've changed our model greatly, even in the last 6 years that I've been in SDS. We've changed a lot of things, and the approach to careers guidance is very different. What we're actually there to do is to, yes, absolutely say you can, and to be aspirational and to work out with the young person and what their dreams are, what their goals are, and how they can achieve them. And that's why, crucially, it actually doesn't matter whether the careers advisor thinks that a young person can or can't do something. It's about making sure that the young person is considering whether they believe that they can do something. Our role is to enable and empower young people to set their own goals that are what they want, to decide and make informed choices about whether or not that's a goal that they are going to be able to achieve, and then set out the steps and to go forward and achieve that. So we want to sort of put aside, I guess, that sort of old perception of the No You Can't careers advisor and move forward and just tell you a little bit more then about our approach. So our approach is very much based on making sure that people get the support that they need. You might have seen this little image elsewhere around sort of equality. The idea here being, that treating everybody the same isn't enough. What you really need is to be making sure that people have the support that they need to suit their individual needs so that everybody can have an equitable outcome. But actually, there's a third part to this image which isn't always shown, and this is the one that SDS would largely subscribe to, and that's the idea that if you just remove the barriers in the first place, then everybody has the equal opportunities and everybody can benefit. So we very much go along with the social model of disability, and there's just the little quote there from a training handout around the social model, where Peter is a disabled man with cerebral palsy. When the barriers that cause difficulty for Peter are removed from society, he will no longer be a disabled man, but he will still have cerebral palsy. The idea there being that young people, individuals, are not disabled by their condition, they're disabled by a society that isn't set up to support them. So in SDS, we very much want to be an organisation that is set up to support disabled people and make sure that they can get the support that they need from us, and that we can help them to go out into the world and navigate that so that they can have equal opportunities and the same as everybody else. To do that then, our coaching approach to guidance is based on a range of ethics, and I'm just going to pull out a few of them just now. So we are completely objective in the advice that we provide, and we are not there to suggest that a young person follows any particular career pathway, that they go about it in any particular way. As I said before, we are there to enable them to understand all of the options open to them and to choose the one that is right for them. We're aspirational. We don't believe that young people should just be, matched into a job. We want them to get something that's right for them. And by aspirational, what we really mean is that they end up in a job that they enjoy, and they end up in a career that will make them feel good about going into their work every day, and that will be something that is right for them. We acknowledge that for a lot of individuals, they will need a partnership approach to support them. So we base a lot of our work as well on strong partnerships, making sure that if it is not appropriate for us at the moment to be in working with the young person, perhaps they have other things to be dealing with first, that we keep these close partnerships to make sure that when it is right for young people to engage with SDS and when they can best benefit from our services, that we're there ready and able to start working with them at that point. The whole approach to coaching guidance is that it is personalised to the individual. So regardless of what needs, equality factors, what experiences an individual has, we see the whole person and we work with the whole person and support them as their needs present themselves when working with us. So we consider all sorts of elements of a young person's life, and that is whether a young person is disabled or has additional support needs or not. So any young person that comes in to see a careers advisor, they might say, I want to be a hairdresser. The advisor's first conversation with them will then be, okay, so tell me about why you want to do that. Let's, walk that back and think about why you've chosen that, what was behind that decision, to make sure always that a young person's career choice is something that's being made for the right reasons and that they've considered all of their options. So we're always there digging underneath to find out what might be behind a decision. Are they really comfortable with it? Is it definitely what they want to do? Or are they being influenced, for example, wanting to do it because their friends are doing that? And that actually really they would like to do something else, but they're maybe just feeling a bit lacking in confidence around that. So that's the sort of coaching approach in a bit of a nutshell there. Wanted as well to give you a bit of an overview as to where you might find Skills Development Scotland in your young person's career path. So we start earlier, I think, than some folks will realise we do. We start to support young people at the primary 7 to S1 transition. There will be group sessions happening there. We attend parents' evenings around that time, and we'd be encouraging parents to log on to My World of Work, to create an account, to be suggesting that their young people look at that. Early intervention at that point helps us to start that relationship building from that stage. It gives us longer time to support young people, and it makes us a familiar presence in the school, so that as young people move through the school, they know who their careers advisor is. Around S2, S3, although this is flexible, so whenever major subject choice happens in a particular school, we have group work interventions that we do with young people. We also offer one-to-one appointments, and parents are very welcome to come along to those one-to-one appointments if they would like. That's a really good opportunity at that early stage for us to start to think about, challenging stereotypes around different career choices, to be signposting to information that would widen options and choices. So if, for example, college is being considered as the only option at that point, because there's some fear or concern around perhaps some of the other pathways being welcoming to the young person, that's an opportunity for us to give you some information of the type that I'll give you later on today, and just widen out those options for young people and for you as their parents and carers. The main bulk of our work in schools then happens largely in the senior phase, but in S3 for those young people who the school deem to need that earlier support, and that's our intensive coaching guidance offer. So the level and the type of support for each young person is agreed with the school. It's based on a number of factors, and having additional support needs or being disabled is a factor that would suggest a young person may need additional support from us. This type of support then helps young people to develop the skills that they need for their career, and helps to support with the post-school transitions in schools. As Tracy said earlier on, the post-school support then that we offer continues right up into adulthood. So we have a Next Steps service offer that is for young people who have left school, unfortunately, without a positive destination to go to. Now, I think we do all genuinely try our hardest to make sure that a young person has something to go to. It doesn't always work out that way, or they may start an opportunity and it doesn't work out and they drop out of that. So from 15 to 18, we have a service offer there that can pick these young people up again and give them some more intensive support to help them to either find an initial positive destination or to find another one. Having that there as well allows us to do a bit of a warm handover from school to the post-school service. Sometimes that can include taking groups of pupils for a look around the centre so that they can be familiar with it, know where it is, and feel comfortable coming in if they'd like some support. As I mentioned as well, so we are an all-age service. So even beyond that Next Step service offer, if young people, adults of any age require support from SDS, you can make an appointment with your SDS, your local SDS Careers Centre, and come along and get some help from us. We also have some digital offers that underpin all of this. So I mentioned just before about My World of Work. That's our web service for individuals that has a range of information and different tools to help people support their career planning. You can register for an account and it opens up further tools and as a place to store sort of CVs. It gives young people an idea of interests that they have and helps them to think about jobs that might be linked to that. There is also My Kids Career, which is a site for parents, and that gives you a range of information again about helping to support your young person's career planning, ways to have conversations about careers, questions you might want to ask, things like that. I mentioned that we would talk about the wider context for career education. I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but wanted to introduce the Career Education Standard to you. So this standard was published in 2015. And it brings together the entitlements that every pupil should have in terms of their career education, and also the expectations that are there on key influencers. So the key influencers in this case are teachers and practitioners, us as Skills Development Scotland, employers, and crucially you as parents and carers, since we know you are the main influencer in your young person's career choices. So what we wanted to do is just pull out one of the entitlements that the pupils have and just show you what all of our individual contributions to supporting that are. So this entitlement then is that pupils should have access to a broad range of pathways through their senior phase that include learning opportunities and leading to work-related qualifications. So if we look at each one in turn then, in terms of parents and carers, as key influencers, it's for you to be better informed and equipped to discuss the options available with your child and offer support in making choices. And again, that's where SDS is keen to engage with parents and carers at things like this, at parents' evenings, through you coming along to subject choice engagements, so that we can help to give you the information to do this as well, and to signpost you to useful information that will make you better informed so that you can help your young person to make their choices. In terms of teachers and practitioners, this is around taking relevant learning experiences and skills and applying those to their subjects, and also to linking in to the labour market and employment opportunities, and looking at how self-employment, being an entrepreneur, can help young people in their career pathways. For Skills Development Scotland, this is really about how we deliver our offer. So we offer drop-in clinics, group work sessions for young people. That's in addition to the pathway I've just outlined to you, as well as our one-to-one sessions. It's to be appropriate to their needs, as I've mentioned before, and it's about providing that ongoing support for young people who are at risk of not finding a positive destination, or for those who find decision making particularly difficult. So really our expectation there sums up a sort of our service offer in schools to young people. And then employers' expectation as well, and we look to them to develop children and young people's understanding of employer-employee expectations and what's appropriate work behaviours. And through Skills Development Scotland, schools and employer partnerships, often you'll hear about employers going into schools to talk to young people about that kind of thing. So I think we just want to put that in there to highlight to you that we're not in this alone. We don't think that we are the only ones doing something in this space, and that it's really important that we're all working together to make sure that young people are getting those entitlements and that they're developing their career education. I realise that all sounds very sort of a lot to take in, with entitlements, expectations and things. So at some point we worked with the National Parent Forum of Scotland, and they developed these nutshell guides that just explain what the career education standard is, and how to have career conversations with young people. So these are two resources specifically for parents, and they're in the handouts section from the webinar today. So now we wanted to start to talk about the skills for their career that we think young people need, and that we focus on helping them to develop. So when we talk about young people who require additional support, we deem it to be young people who would require additional support to develop this set of skills. So there's 4 areas: self, strengths, horizons and networks. The first of these really thinks about who you are. What is your self-image? Do you have a positive self-image? Do you understand your behaviour, the way you like to behave, maybe the expected behaviours in different contexts? We look at strengths, so what's a young person good at? And also, how do they cope when things don't go well? Where is their resilience, and can that be built upon? We look at networks, specifically around who can help individuals in their career. So how do they build and maintain relationships, and how do they find the information that might be useful to them in sort of progressing with their career? And I think for young disabled people, some of that information might be initiatives that widen access to opportunities, and I'll talk about some of that later. And then finally, the last section there then is horizons. So what are the options that are available to young people? What is the variety of sort of choices for post-school, the different pathways that could take them places, and how do they cope with change in their career, and are they set up to be able to do that? So it's this set of skills then that we think are the crucial skills for young people moving forward in their career, and it's these ones that we would want to help them to develop. To help to do that, we've actually just put together a new set of resources. They're specifically designed to support young people with additional support needs. And we have had feedback from ARC's group of young people who work with Scott. I don't know if any of you will have met Scott on another webinar. So we've had some really useful feedback from young people with additional support needs on these. I've popped this up here really just so that you might recognise them if your young person brings them home. And also so that you might want to have further conversation with them about them. It might be a good way of looking at what they've been learning with their careers advisor and bringing that learning and those conversations into the home. The point of all of the resources is so that the young person can constantly reflect back on what have they learned about themselves and how is this going to help them in their career. So you can see that they've got images to help with understanding. The key thing about them is that they're flexible and they're designed to suit a range of needs. So there is not a one-size-fits-all worksheet. There are different worksheets designed to support different types of need. And you can see there in terms of my interests, the one there that says living skills, that's an easy read version, and it covers some subjects that might be taught in ESN schools that wouldn't be taught in mainstream schools. So just a bit of variety there as well to make sure that they're appropriate for each young person that they're used with. And again, the idea of using these is that they're aligned to the skills that I've just spoken about and the skills that the young person needs. So your young person may not use all of these resources. They'll use the ones that through discussion with the careers advisor, they identify as being skills that the young person might need to develop. So we thought now just to sort of be a bit more interactive as well, so I'm not just constantly talking at you for the whole time, is that we could try out one of the resources together. Now, of course, you are all muted, I understand, so if you could pop things into the chat, Tracy is very kindly going to read them out. So what we want to do is look at this activity around things I like about me, and it's the positivity jar. And the idea behind this is that with the careers advisor and then also perhaps at home with you, with their teachers, with their friends, the young person would fill the jar up with positive things about themselves. The idea being that this helps them to develop a positive self-image. Now, some young people might already have this and they might not need this activity, but I think we know that, for some of our young people, they might not be feeling overly positive about themselves, and so this is to try and support them with that. We want to make it clear to them as well that they don't have to fill the jar now. They can add to it over their life, and again that just makes the point to them as well that we're all constantly developing, we're all constantly learning, and that's what we want to make them see, and that wherever they are just now is great, and we just want to help them to move forward at their own pace. So I'm going to come out of this just now then. I just pull up my little interactive PDF, which I'm hoping is going to work. And if folks could start to think about, I think what we'll do is just say positive things about our young people. about your young people, if you were thinking of things, that you like about your child or your young person, what would those be? And we can start to fill the jar. So I'll start maybe down in this corner. I'm not a parent, but I am a very devoted auntie, and I absolutely love about my niece that she's really kind. She's a kind child. Does anyone have any positive things about their young person they'd like to share that we can add to the jar?
Sociable.
Sociable, great.
We
This is
have great at PC games. I'm glad you're keying these in and not me. That's great.
I know, this is where we realise I can't type.
Energetic,
Energetic,
resilient, kind,
kind, brilliant.
we have a good sense of humour,
I'll go into a different box here. Yep.
animals,
Likes animals.
loves animals,
Loves animals.
more than likes,
Yep.
and enthusiastic. Oh, they're coming through thick and fast now. Enthusiastic, ambitious, we have caring. There's 3 or 4 caring.
Great.
Anybody else want to add anything else in?
Yeah.
Oh, just 1 second. Good at programming, PC programming. So good at PC programming.
Excellent, fantastic. So you can see there, it starts to, oh,
Yes,
sorry.
one more. Creative, the last one.
Creative.
Oh, no, we have some more. Creative and thoughtful.
Yep.
That's another sociable. We've already got one, so we've already got
Yep.
social there. Okay.
Excellent, fantastic. So you can see then that the idea behind this is that we start to build it up. Now, admittedly, the interactive version of this isn't the best. It's been put in place for things like this situation where we might be having to work remotely and not be able to be face to face and sitting down with a young person. But the usual version that would be used would be a worksheet with the empty jar. Young people then can write on it, they can draw, they can cut and paste things out of magazines. There's a set of stickers that they can use with things like this, caring, kind, and they can add them in like that. So it's really designed to be flexible and to be the way that your young person might want to complete things and fill things in. We've tried to move away from everything being always about writing, always about, typing and filling things in. But you can see how quickly that can start to build up a really positive image for the young people. And so these are the types of activities that your young person might bring home, that they might have been doing. And as I say, for some young people who maybe can't think of something positive about themselves, there are always going to be folks like you at their back who know positive things and can suggest them to them and help them fill in their jar. So we hope that these resources are going to be really useful going forward for young people in developing their skills. So we'll go back into the presentation again, and we're going to just do another wee activity just now. This one, again, we've actually had feedback from Scott's group of young people. They've consulted on this for us, and they particularly liked this idea for an activity. So you can see we've got 6 folks there, all who have their condition listed down. And what we want to do is to try and match up who you think has the different jobs. So I think the easiest way of doing this perhaps is if we look at the person first and then we look at the list of jobs, and if you could pop in the chat your suggestions as to which job you think they do. So Angela has Down syndrome. Do you think that she is an author, a chef, a city councillor, a dancer, a talk show host, or an Olympian?
One person who thinks she's a dancer. Two people, yes. And talk show host. One thinks she's a chef. One thinks she's a counsellor. One thinks she may be an Olympian, but that's 1, 2, 3, I think, who've said dancer. I
Okay.
don't know if it's inside information. I'm not sure. I
Yep.
don't know. I'm
Yep.
guessing.
So well done then. The one person who guessed Angela is actually a city councillor in Spain and has been for a good number of years now. She moved up from being admin staff in the city council and now holds a seat in an area of Spain. So Carly then, Carly has autism. What job do we think Carly does out of those options?
One person has said talk show host.
Any other guesses?
Any other guesses? Olympian? Maybe chef.
Okay, got it right the first time. Carly is a talk show host. She has her own web series. The really interesting thing, and perhaps this person knows, but the really interesting thing about Carly is that Carly is actually non-verbal. But Ellen was her idol when she was a young person, and she always wanted to be a talk show host. So she has her own web series now where she uses her computer to have the conversation with people. And our very first interview was with Channing Tatum. It's a really great interview. I'm just realising as well that I did forget to add the links to these to the PowerPoint slides, Tracy. So what I'll maybe do is just send you the links to all of these case studies afterwards. And if folks would like to find out more about these people, and they are all real people, then they could have a look at them after the webinar as well. So Christine then is blind. What job do we think Christine does?
We have, lots of people think author. One person thinks dancer, and one person possibly talk show host as well.
Okay, Christine is a chef. She won MasterChef in America. She has her own restaurant. She has cookbooks. And so, yes, she is a blind chef. Chris is deaf. What job do we think Chris does?
Dancer. Several people think he's a dancer.
They are correct. Chris is a choreographer and a dancer. He's been on Britain's Got Talent, I believe, although I don't watch it. And he's also been in an advert for a very well-known alcoholic drinks brand. He was in a Smirnoff advert at one point talking about being a deaf dancer. So there's some really great videos and things online as well of Chris talking about overcoming perceptions to do that. Max has dyslexia. What job do we think Max has?
We're going for author. That's 4 people.
Author. Yep, he is indeed an author. He wrote World War Z, which was turned into a blockbuster movie with Brad Pitt and was filmed in our very own George Square in Glasgow. Or at least part of it was. I mean, I work in George Square and I never got to see Brad Pitt, which was somewhat disappointing. And finally, Michael has ADHD, and some folks may recognise Michael, and we've got one job left. So he is an Olympian, and he has the most medals, I believe, of any Olympian, 23 gold, and he has ADHD. The idea behind this activity then is really about challenging the concept of realistic jobs for people with particular conditions. I think even when folks are being aspirational, it may seem like some jobs would be automatically ruled out because of their condition. For example, some people might worry it would be dangerous for somebody who's blind to be a chef in a busy kitchen. Obviously, Christine manages that. Somebody would think that someone who is profoundly deaf could not be a choreographer and a dancer if they can't hear the music, but he can feel the music and the vibrations through the floor, and is a very talented dancer. Carly doesn't speak, but that doesn't stop her from being a talk show host. So it's really, about challenging those automatic assumptions and taking a step back and not letting that immediately put someone off a career aspiration that they might have. Just because it seems like it might be more difficult, it doesn't mean it's impossible. And really, the whole idea behind developing the skills that they need for their career is to think about, well, that might be what I want. What do I need to do to get there? And are each of those steps achievable for me? And is there a way that I can, get some reasonable adjustments and work my way around that? So I hope that's been a bit helpful there in sort of broadening out some ideas. What we then wanted to do, and this really was Lorna's case study, so I'm very much hoping I do it justice here, but what we wanted to do was to bring a case study closer to home then. This is a young person who did work with SDS at one point through their journey. The needs of this young person were very complex, so mental health conditions there around an eating disorder, anxiety, also dyslexia, inoculophobia, and was also a young carer. So this is another one on the screen of our resources for young people with additional support needs. The idea behind this one is that it will pull key things together from the other activities that a young person might do with their advisor, and pull out the key points for each of these areas of skills, so that they can build up a plan and have a bit of a table mat approach around all of that information, their voice, and making sure that that can be used then in their transition planning. So for example, if a young person maybe is not able to go along to transition meetings at times, this could be along in their place, making sure that their views have been captured and what they want has been sort of noted down, and people could be discussing it around this sort of approach. So if we think about Bob, this is Bob's plan. Interests were cooking, fashion, beauty therapy. Strengths were caring, things like baking, cake decorating, practical things like that, skincare, makeup artistry. Was good at all of those things. Their network was really quite vast, so they had a lot of people that they could call on for help, and a lot of people working with the young person. So from the school, the local council, young carers organisation, the school nurse, different training organisations, SDS is us, we were in there as well, the college, the educational psychologist, a different counsellor, so a lot of people around this young person, which also kind of shows the complexity of the needs that the young person had. And in terms of horizons then and the options that they were considering, there was volunteering, training, college, but the dream job for this young person was to be a nurse. So what we want to do now then is just look at the pathway that this young person had then from school into their sort of final destinations. So they left school with 3 passes at National 4, went into an access course at college, so things were fairly difficult at that point, and then moved through a few different training opportunities. They did get sort of qualifications through that. There was some work placements. These tended to be in things like customer service. They then moved into college sort of on a more permanent basis, moved up through a few different stages there, beauty therapy level 5 and level 6. That let them get to the level that they wanted to be at to do HNC healthcare. So they reached their level 7 there while in college. Each of these steps taken about a year. They then started university in nursing at level 7. Because they had the HNC, they could have chosen to go in to second year of university and start at that point, but because of their dyslexia and all of the difficult terms and things that tend to be there in nursing and in your learning, they chose to actually go back and repeat level 7 in their nursing qualification so that they could give themselves more time to become familiar with all of the language and terminology used. There was then a point in this career path where we had to defer for a year. Bob is actually Bobby, and she became a mum while studying at university, so deferred our university course for a year. And I think this points out in the pathway as well that everything, although it sometimes can seem like that, is not necessarily just about a person's being disabled, it's not about their condition. All of the other things that impact everybody else's transitions through life and everybody else's pathways also affect our young people. And they can intersect and they can add stages into people's pathways as well. So even with the deferral for a year, Bobby then graduated with her BSc in adult nursing at level 9, and she graduated with a distinction. She is employed as a nurse in an oncology department. Things have not always been easy there. You know, I mean, dyslexia doesn't go away. She still needs to take some time, you know, learning, terminology and things at times. Her anxiety can still be there. It can still have an impact at times. But the difference being that Bobby's been able to get the support that she needs from her employer and making sure that reasonable adjustments can be made for her and that people understand that, you know, she might have anxiety at different points, but that it does not prevent her from being a very good nurse and from doing her job. So I think that's really important as well in terms of this sort of individual's pathway, is that nothing necessarily is going to get fixed, so to speak. You know, conditions that are lifelong don't go away, but that doesn't mean that they can't be sort of accounted for, accommodated and worked around in a person's chosen career path. And Bobby is now back at uni on a part-time basis doing anti-cancer therapy course at level 10. So, you know, this young person, with all of the barriers that she started out with the few qualifications that she left school with, has taken it small step by small step, overcome barriers at each point, assessed what she thought was right for her, and taken either a step back or a step to the side at times if that was what was best for her, rather than racing through her pathway, taking the time that she needed to become the nurse that she wanted to be. And it's at the point now where she's actually then, even having achieved her goal, is taking her goal even further and doing further study to specialise. So I think it's a really, really great, genuine, sort of real person case study there of showing that sometimes, you know, things for our young people might just take a little bit longer and they might need some more steps, but that doesn't mean that the goal can't be achieved in the end. So the other thing then that we wanted to do was to look at maybe some of the things that can help then people to widen their opportunities and to achieve some of those pathways like we've been talking about. You know, if we're going to challenge realistic job ideas and suggest that young people, you know, keep trying and take small steps, then it's really helpful to know what support is out there to help people to do that. So we've got some different pathways here then, college, university, apprenticeships and employment. And I just want to go through just a few things that are available then to support these pathways. Can't go through everything, and I'm not able to go into, you know, huge amounts of detail, or it could be a whole series of webinars in its own, but I'll cover as much as I can today, and there are links in the downloadable slide pack for you to access more information if you'd like about any of these things. So the ones that you may very well be familiar with are reasonable adjustments, and these go across all of the pathways there. It's, you know, in law from the Equality Act that people must make reasonable adjustments for disabled people to be able to access different pathways. In college and university, that might mean, support with lectures, it can be help with studying, it can be, support with exams. It can include anything from equipment that people might need, additional support. It can be around accommodation and making sure there's accessible accommodation if young people want to go and stay in halls. In terms of apprenticeships and employment, again, it can be about equipment needed, it can be about support, it can be about just little changes made to processes. And it's really important to know that that comes from the recruitment process right through into employment. So if young people are going for an interview or applying for a job, the reasonable adjustments count from the point of them applying, and they can ask to, maybe put an application in a different format if that's something that might be, supporting them. They can ask for support and communication support, for example, at their interview. Things that help then with sort of making reasonable adjustments a reality. Again, for college and university, there will be a sort of a disability or an ASN support team in a college or university. Those are the folks to talk to about how to get some of the reasonable adjustments that a young person might need, and they're there to help you do that. Be going to the individual institutions around that to get help. Access to work is funding that is available to support, the buying of equipment, to put in place anything that needs to be in place in a workplace to allow an individual to get the help that they need and to be able to enter employment. So access to work is something to be aware of there. It's run by the government, and employers can access funding to put in place different supports. So that's again something to look into if your young person was to be considering apprenticeships or employment. There's some other things as well. So for college and university, and actually for apprenticeships and employment as well, there are Prince's Trust Development Awards. These are awards for individuals aged 16 to 30. The people need to be unemployed or working less than 16 hours or in education for less than 14 hours. But the maximum award is £500, and you can apply to that to help with buying tools and equipment that you might need, for example, hairdressing sets. It can help with course fees, interview clothes, so sort of all sorts of things there then to help people to get the opportunity and to progress into the pathway that they want. There is then, in terms of college and university, the ASN for learning allowance for college and a disabled student allowance in university. Both of these are pots of funding again. They sit on top of other grants and other finance, so it's an extra source of funding, and it's specifically around making sure that young people or any individuals of any age accessing these pathways can get the support that they need and put in place the things that they need to be able to access these opportunities. Again, these are ones that the individual college or university would be able to tell you about, and the disability or ASN support teams there would be the best folks to talk to about that. In terms of employment and apprenticeships, there's different pathways into these. So some young people may not be ready straight away for going into an apprenticeship. They may not be ready to go into employment. That's where some of these other training programs can support a pathway. The Employability Fund offers opportunities that are specific to local authorities. So local areas would bid for the funding and set up these training opportunities. They are aimed at folks who need work experience, who need some training to help them to build the skills that they might need and the confidence that they need, quite crucially, to then maybe move into the likes of an apprenticeship or actual employment. We're also just starting some pathways to apprenticeships. These are aimed at recent school leavers, and it's a programme that would help, again, young people to develop what they need, the skills and the confidence to move into a modern apprenticeship where possible, and we'll also be considering equality factors in there and how we use that to support young people with equality factors, including disabled young people, to access modern apprenticeships. The first phase of that starting in December this year, so this is a reasonably new thing. But as more is found out about it, we can be promoting that further. And the SDS Equality Scottish Apprenticeships team, that's our colleagues of mine in SDS, they sit in our national training programmes team. They will be able to help young people to find out about those. So there's some contact details for that team at the end of the slides as well. One of the other things around apprenticeships that's worth knowing about is the enhanced funding. Now this funding actually goes to training providers, so the folks who are supporting the young people with their qualification element of their apprenticeship. But the idea behind this is that because apprenticeships are really there as well to tackle youth unemployment, there's a higher amount of funding for young people, so those aged 16 to 19-year-olds. If folks are doing a modern apprenticeship, that funding gets less as people get older, and there's less demand for apprenticeships at those ages. However, for disabled people and care experienced people, that enhanced highest level of funding is extended to people up to 29 years of age. And that's in recognition that, as we've said already, some young people need to take longer to get through their pathway. They need more steps before they would be ready to benefit from a modern apprenticeship, and so they can access these for a longer time and up to a higher age. The other thing to note is the new Job Start payment. This is for young people who are out of work and on certain benefits like Job Seekers Allowance, Universal Credit. It's a payment of up to £250, and folks can use that for anything that they want, but the idea is that it will be there to help people to enter employment, so it can help with travel costs initially, maybe lunches for the first while before you've got your pay, new clothes if you need those, or a uniform for your work, lots of different things like that. Anything that would be a barrier for somebody starting employment, the Job Start payment is there to support them with. So as I say, all of these things there are links to in the downloadable slide pack, and you can find out more about them, but that's just to give you a bit of a flavour there, to show you the different types of finance and support available to make these pathways and the options at the end of them realistic for young people. And as I say, our SDS Equality Scottish Apprenticeships team are there. They do work largely with training providers and employers around delivering modern apprenticeships, but they also work in partnership with our local CIAG, our careers teams across the country, and that way they can help individuals to access these pathways. They can work specifically with some young people and see what they need to be able to enter a modern apprenticeship, and how they can support and how they can advise on other types of funding, other types of support that's available to help them. So we're drawing to the end, I guess, of the bits that I was going to cover in terms of me talking to you all. We just wanted to bring this right around and highlight that those career skills that I was talking about earlier are actually called career management skills. And we've held off on using that term up until this point because we realise they sound like they might be very advanced skills, like they might be skills that are for some young people and not others. But actually, hopefully, what you've gotten from this webinar this morning is that they're absolutely not skills for just some young people. They're skills for all of us. and they're skills that all of our young people can develop at the level that's right for them, at the time that's right for them, to help their career. And we've got this quote here from Sandra Chain, who is our CIAG Policy and Professional Practice Manager in SES, actually my boss, that at their heart, career management skills are about happiness. And what we want is that everybody in Scotland is happy, fulfilled, and they're realising their individual potential. So we want our young people, our disabled young people, those with additional support needs, to be in a job that gives them a sense of self-worth, whatever that job is. It's the one that's right for them. It's the one where they can use and build on their strengths. We want them to be able to see all of their options and know how to access them, and to know who can help them to grow, develop and move on, so that they can all be happy at work. So self, strengths, horizons, networks are the career management skills that we want young people to be able to build up. So just want to finish again then with a bit of a Mentimeter, and in this one you can put in a little bit more information if you'd like, but just now having heard what you have, how are you feeling? Is there anything of interest there that you want to look into more? Has anything sort of changed your mind? Has anything challenged any ideas that you had? And so if we go back into the menti.com again, I'll bring that up. And just go to the next slide. There we go. You should get an option to start to type in. So if folks want to sort of start to add any comments, and we can see how folks are feeling now. I'm just going to have a wee glass of water. Oh, that's great. That is really good. That is nice to see.
And someone's posted in the chat, reassured.
Excellent, fantastic. So more informed, hopeful, empowered. That's great. Fantastic. That's really good. It's good to see.
Glad to have some clarity on how to start exploring next steps.
Fantastic. Excellent. So I'll let these just keep coming through, and we can always come back and have another look at that as well. Encouraged and assured, great. I'm going to let you all just maybe type away for a wee bit there on that, and we'll come back to that in a wee second. Oh, they're coming through thick and fast now. Informative, good. Feeling positive, knowledgeable, great. Excellent, happy they can get help. And on that, that is a lovely segue into the next slide as well, that I just want to show you and talk through. So we've spoken a lot then about the support that you can get. Obviously, this was just a very quick run through of what we offer. It's really about working with your local careers advisor, your school careers advisor, coming along to your centre and making sure that you can get the support that you need in your own sort of locales. If you would like any more information about anything we've talked about today, you're very welcome to email Lorna, who, although she was not here today, would be very happy to receive an email and answer any questions. You can email me. I've put the link in there for where you can find your local SDS centre. Obviously at the moment, with things as they are, things are operating slightly differently, but if you give your centres a call, many of our centres are beginning to reopen again and are seeing people on an appointment basis. And we do have easy read guides as well around, you know, how to come to the centre, what would happen, you know, what you need to do in terms of wearing masks, things like that. So there is guidance as well there for young people that's accessible. The other thing that we just want to flag, and I'll move on very quickly just now, is that My World of Work. The link is there. My Kids Career, as well. The website that I mentioned, that's the link to that. And the SDS Apprenticeship Equality team that I mentioned, that is their inbox as well. So if you have a question specifically around apprenticeships, how to access them, the support available, then that's the best inbox to use, that's the best email address. The helpline I've added in there in the middle. It is a sort of telephone helpline at the moment, although we do have web chat on My World of Work, and anyone who uses British Sign Language could contact us on the helpline through Contact Scotland BSL. If you're not aware of that, it's a service where BSL users can sign with someone at Contact Scotland BSL through an app, and that person at the service will phone, whether it's the doctor, us at SDS, any other service, and have an initial conversation with the young person. So it might be about setting up an appointment to come into a centre and making it clear that communication support would be needed and working out how to get that in place. And we can provide that for folks who don't have their own BSL support. So just to make you aware of that from the point of view of your young person, if you can phone that helpline if you've got concerns about that as well. If you want to sort of find out about your local centre, make an appointment, that's another option there to phone as well. But we wanted to highlight all of these things, not just for your young person, but also, we are all going through very difficult, unprecedented times. We know that, sadly, redundancies and things are ramping up quite a lot just now. That is a concern for a lot of families. It can be more of a concern for some where perhaps one person is working because the other is taking on a carer role as well for children and young people. If that is something that's affecting your family, please do call the helpline. SDS can help adults of any age with things like that, and we're happy to help and support. And also in terms of coming along to your local SDS centre for support, calling the helpline as well. We know that a transition for your young person, again, might mean a transition for you as well. Perhaps, with your young person moving on into their adult life, you might be returning to work, you might be looking at changing your career. So, again, and I'm sort of saying this repeatedly, but we are an all-age service here to support everyone in Scotland. So if you are finding that you're going through a bit of a change, a bit of a transition in your own career, then, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us, come in and ask to speak to someone. And if you think you can do it by yourself but just want some more information and advice, then My World of Work is there for you. And we are actually just at the moment launching a new service on My World of Work that's specifically around adults who are in work but might want to be changing their career, either advancing and looking at promotions or just changing the direction of it. So help there, not just for your young people, but for your whole family, if that's something that would be helpful to you. So we'll just go back and see if other folks have been putting in anything in there. So feel much more positive and optimistic. Disappointed did not already know about this through school. Yeah, I think it can be difficult. I think there's sometimes so many services in schools, working out who everybody is and getting the right information at different times can be difficult. I would advise anybody who goes along to parents' evenings to try and seek out your SDS careers advisor. They'll be there and they'll be happy to talk to you. They often do different talks and sort of sessions as well at parents' evenings around different routes and pathways and giving information about who we are and what we do. So, seek them out at that forum, but also if you feel you don't know what's happening with your careers advisor, contact the school and ask them, who is the careers advisor in that school? Is your child seeing them? And what's happening around that. And again, hopefully, now that we have this new bank of resources, something for the young people to take away from their sessions with us that are all in a sort of set and fairly recognisable, hopefully bringing those home as well might start to sort of shine a light on what is happening in school and what your young person is talking to their careers advisor about. somebody not sure if it can be applied to their child, if you want to put a question or something into the chat, be more than happy to sort of maybe answer something that might help to clarify if it is applicable. It's applicable to all young people, really. We see a career as sort of more than just employment or more than just one sort of pathway. It's really as I say, about happiness and fulfillment. So there can be different ways that a career might look, and at different points we're happy to work with individuals to help them. And I think I had planned to mention earlier, but we've been focusing very much today on career, but I know that your webinar that's available next week from Salvis and Mindroom will sort of broaden all of these kind of topics and this idea of what do you want out from just looking at career to looking at the whole person and what might their whole post-school transitions and whole life in adulthood look like. So if it's not us that you're needing right now, if we're not ready to be talking specifically about career, then there'll be, I'm sure, some really, really helpful information and resources next week from them.
Pauline, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
No
We're going to
problem.
do as many questions as we can. I can see there's some
Yeah.
coming in from that. It's just to let you know that this webinar is scheduled to finish at 12, and there's nothing I can do about that. We'll be thrown off at 12 whether we finish talking or not. We could be mid-sentence. So if we don't get your question answered, I'll make a note of all the questions that are being asked, and Pauline and I can deal with them later on, and we'll send them send the answers out to you by email, okay? But we'll get through as many as we can just now. Then there's Fiona who's saying, my son is non-verbal autistic and does not communicate. It's not clear if he will be capable to work. Is there something or people within SDS who would be able to help support him to identify whether the work path is right for him, whether it's volunteering, whether it's social enterprise, whatever it may be?
Absolutely, yeah. So, as we were saying there, it's about working out what's right for people at different times. So it might be as well, that right now employment and the workplace doesn't feel like it would be ready, but further down the line with different supports in between, with smaller steps, little bits of experience, making sure that all of the supports are in place, like equipment, things that would help maybe communication, that once those are in place, that employment might become something that is possible. So absolutely, speak to your careers advisor, and if you wanted as well, my email address is there, so send me an email, and maybe with where you are, and I could put you in touch with your local team and see what they can do. It might be that at the moment it's partner support first and foremost to get some communication things up and running, and then SDS further down the line. But within that wider partnership approach, absolutely, there would be support there to think about what the pathway would look like for your young person.
Angela's asking, what are the options for meeting online for young people who find face-to-face difficult?
So we have actually got some new options, which I guess we never would have had before had the pandemic not hit. So we do now have things like video calls, if that is possible. There's telephone, we can use web chat, we can use email. We do like to build up to being able to have conversations some way or another, so that you can maybe get a little bit more back and forth than waiting for emails to go back and forward. But there's lots of different ways to engage with us now, and I think what we've learned is that while it has been really difficult for some people, and some of our customers really need that face-to-face contact, we have seen how it has benefited some other people that maybe are a bit anxious about face-to-face appointments. So what we're looking going forward then is to have a bit more of a blended approach, where all the lessons that we've learned about how to interact with people more remotely can be built in to how we deliver our services going forward, even once we're, fingers crossed, back up and running fully again with face-to-face options.
There's one here, Pauline. It says, having difficulty getting my 16-year-old to even think about the future, autistic, anxiety, and a learning disability. Do you have any insights or any thoughts about what parents can do to actually start talking to their young people about the future? I would actually say this is something that we'll be coming back to next week as well, but do you have any thoughts from your experience?
Yeah, I think perhaps as well linking in, maybe having a conversation with the careers advisor in school, finding out what conversations have been happening there, have they been seeing their careers advisor. Things like these resources then, mention that you've been on the webinar, that you've seen the resources that are there. Are they using these with your young person? Is there a way for you then to sort of have part of the conversation at home? My Kids Career as well, I would really suggest that you take a look at that. There's some really helpful things on there about, how to have the conversation, how to start the conversation, questions to ask, ways to broach this topic with your young person. So lots of information for parents and carers on that site.
There's one from Ruth, and she says, I home educate my son. How can I get Skills Development Scotland involved in our transition planning?
Contact me in the first instance so that I can put you in touch with the right team. Or if you would like, you could go onto the centre search and get in touch with your team. We, deliver our services, and to us, all young people are entitled to a service from us. So homeschooled young people as well, we are very happy to engage with, whether that means, your young person might come into the centre or in the current circumstances, it might be remote and we could set up some sort of phone calls, video calls with you. It can be difficult at times, I think, to know where homeschooled young people are and how to get in touch with them. So, please do let us know and we'll be more than happy to provide a service to your young person and to you.
That's lovely, thank you. Do you find that the statistics for people with disabilities have gone up, pandemic aside? I guess that's in the world of work and employment.
I think they are going up. I don't think they're going up as quickly as we would all like to see. And I think some of that has been barriers to maybe perceptions of how a job needs to be done. So, maybe the idea that you would have to be out on the road all the time, or, there's maybe not been the sort of flexibility in working practices in some cases that might be still barriers to folks accessing certain careers. I'm hopeful, and it might be, completely off base and no need for no reason for my hope, but I'm hopeful, as I said earlier, that the changes that we're seeing in sort of working practices, the extra flexibility and things that have had to be put in for everyone because of the situation that we find ourselves in, I really hope that that translates into things being a bit easier for young people to access employment where they need that level of flexibility. So we might see things improve further. But yeah, I think they are getting better, and we do have a participation measure for SDS where we measure sort of post-school opportunities. I think a lot of young people still go to college, largely who have additional support needs. And I think, again, that's where the information around widening access to other opportunities is really helpful, and again, might help the stats to go up. College is a great option. It absolutely is. And for a lot of young people, it's not the only option. And it's about making sure that young people get the option that is right for them. And I think when that becomes the norm, and maybe the pathways chosen by young people are broadened out to cover all of these other options, again, we might see the sort of positive outcomes going up rather, because people will be starting off in the pathway that is right for them and that works best for the way that they learn and the way that the job that they want to do.
Okay, and I think we'll have to make this the last one, and it will have to be quick. Someone is asking, is there support with developing the social skills that are needed in the workplace? Because for a lot of young people, they might have the qualifications or the academic or the intellectual ability, but the social skills can be a real barrier.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a lot of different programs. Some of the employability fund programs would help with that. There's some programs, you know, for pre-apprenticeship that are apprenticeship equality team run, that help to build confidence, help to build skills. I think work experience comes up to that as well, making sure that your young person gets access to the work experience that they should. But career management skills themselves are often the sort of transferable social skills as well, you know, how to cope with things that aren't going well. And through those discussions, the advisor would help the young people to identify sort of strengths and skills that they need to work on for the workplace, would help them to understand what the expectations might be and what they might need to do to develop to be able to meet the expectations. So yes, I think there's a range of support out there, and again, your careers advisor will be able to help you and your young person find sources of how to develop those skills.
I think I was saying right at the beginning that as parents and carers, very often it's getting that essential piece of the jigsaw. You want to make sure that you're asking the right people, you know who to go to ask the questions, the people who've got the answers. And Pauline, I think you've given us so much this morning that just, you know, speaks to that completely. It's just knowing when you've got those questions, where you go with those and who to ask. So thank you so much for that. And I can see in the chat, there's been lots of things coming through saying, thank you so much, brilliant,
Excellent.
you know, really useful. So so thank you for joining us this morning.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I'm just going to wind up very quickly. As Pauline said, next week we're focusing on putting together a transition plan. Now that very often happens within school, but if it doesn't, or if the school isn't actually producing the plan that you think is complete for your young person's needs, or maybe they've left school and you haven't actually got that plan in place, then next week would be a really good session to attend, and we can actually talk through what sorts of things need to be in the plan, some of the places that you might be able to go to find out the information that you need to put that together. You've got the handouts from today. I will be sending out the recording. I'll be sending out links to all the handouts. The links that Pauline mentioned to the stories of the people who are doing amazing things in a very creative way. I mean, I think that's one of the messages again to come through from this morning. Just because someone, I talk to so many parents who are saying they can't picture their young person in work, but not now doesn't mean not ever. It's actually just those steps with the planning, with the support, doesn't mean, like Bobby, that they may well get to where they want to go to. And it's all about focusing on the young person's hopes and dreams and ambitions and what they want to do with their life. And Pauline, you said it again, it's happiness. I mean, that's one thing that as parents, we all want our young people to be happy in the situation that they're going to be in and feel fulfilled. That's such a big part of that. So I'm going to wind up there. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for taking part so brilliantly. Hopefully we'll see a number of you again next week, and have a good day. And again, if you think of any questions that you would like to ask that we haven't been able to cover this morning, if it comes to you later, middle of the night, whenever, if you send it through to the email that you got the registration invitation from, so to me it's tracy.francis@arcuk.org.uk, and I will make sure that they're passed on to Pauline, or if I can't answer them, that I'll find somebody who can give me the information to get back to you about that. So thank you very much again. Enjoy the rest of your day and hope to see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.